So Mudavadi's bag, we may want to ask whether he still has the same amount of votes that he would have commanded in the last general elections, and also further to that, whether what is the implication of the new voter register? Are we going to have new people? Well, yes, of course we will, and then what is the implication in that presidential outcome? So as of now, in my opinion, the horse remains a two-horse race between Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga. Yeah.
Okay, Bwana Kaluma, of course there's history to this, and incidentally, he's not the only one who's declared that Jubilee no. Anyone else? Jubilee no. Do you agree with Bwana Maura that?
Of course, Jubilee is President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, and you know, everybody else is saying anything but Jubilee. And I hope you know, Maura will see the sense of you know, thinking deeply about that you know position coming out from Kenyans. Now, in terms of Mudavadi, he cannot work with Jubilee for very obvious reasons. You remember what happened to Mudavadi as we were approaching you know, December 2012, where Mudavadi had a clear arrangement with the then President Mwai Kibaki that he would be the candidate. The baton was to be handed over to him. You remember then the team meeting in Mudavadi's house in Lavington, where the current president, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, went there and said, we are making you president. And of course you remember, you know, it was a demon thing. You remember Madimoni, the Madimoni, Mashevidi, yes, Mashetani. So Mudavadi has been beaten. So that, you know, beyond the fact that Jubilee House is also full, he has a history with these people. His trust has been betrayed. These people have stopped him, you know, in the past. And he knows, by the way, in an arrangement between Uhuru and Ruto, he's not going far. But number two, Fred, Jubilee is a full house. More so for people the level of caliber of Mudavadi. Because you see, Mudavadi is a person telling you we need something bigger than being just an ordinary member. Uhuru and Ruto have told you that their Jubilee party is to enable Uhuru, you know, recapture power in 2017, go up to 2022. And they have also a commitment, you know, documented and firm in their relationship, that from 2022 to 2032, it is Ruto. Now, you know the age of Mudavadi, you know the age of Ruto. Essentially, you know, Jubilee Party has made it clear to any Kenyans, any Kenyan who has political ambitions beyond, you know, these small things, that you come to be a member until 2032. I don't think, leave alone Mudavadi, any Kenyan would be but,
of course, politicians are known to forget even this kind of bitterness that probably Bwana Kaluma says Mudavadi could be having against Jubilee. Do you really believe it's that bitterness that informs him when he says he can never work with Jubilee?
I think let's agree in politics. I think the former British Foreign Secretary said that the Britain does not have any permanent friends or permanent enemies. It only has permanent interests. Politics is all about interests. I can tell you, do not be surprised, and do not be surprised if a framework that guarantees the interests of Amani or even Wiper, or even I know currently ODM, no, because they have been here longer. But I'm just giving the scenario that from a political, looking at the history of our country, for example, National Development Party, together with the Democratic Party in 1997, opposed the results of 1997 elections. Actually, you saw Raila together with the former President Mwai Kibaki in a press conference saying that these elections could not stand minimum standards of scrutiny, and it was a farce. But what happened a few years down the line? We had Raila working together with President Moi. And then, of course, we know the history. So you do not rule out anything in politics. The reality is that if a framework, Kalonzo Musyoka is quoted recently saying, I have senators to my name, I have governors to my name, and I even have MCAs to my name. I do not have it. These were his words. So what happens if Jubilee works out something that makes him comfortable? So it's a question of just ensuring that if interests are well taken care of, you don't rule out anything. Even suppose, for example, nothing. Uhuru Kenyatta tomorrow can say he's not even defending his seat. You know, anything can happen in politics. 1 week in politics. I can tell you, Maura, for example, when he told us last week that I have gone to my party, told them for me to stand in the next election, the ground says what? Jubilee.
Yes.
But he can firmly tell you that in 2013, how he would advocate for the things he advocated for ODM gave him the platform. But the political scenario currently has changed, and you can understand why he had to make the shift.
Some other individuals who are saying they cannot work with Jubilee is Kanu and Bomet Governor Isaac Ruto's Chama cha Mashinani CCM. They say they can work together to bring down Jubilee's popularity in South Rift in next year's polls. Now, Bonamora, as they said, that probably in Jubilee Party there's no space for anyone else.
I think that's not true, and it remains to be seen whether these individuals who are claiming this are only saying that just to raise their stakes. I would want to imagine so, and I wish them well. There will be a lot of political haggling as we move to the next general election.
Do you think Jubilee has space for anyone else?
You know, there's always space in politics, and there's always room for the best at the top. So if you are the best, you'll always find your own space.
At what level in Jubilee?
The only thing that we can be sure about is that the presidential candidate of Jubilee is Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. And so therefore, any other space other than the first two are negotiable. So for
position 3 and below.
For CORD, it's even worse because we are seeing people running without running mates. If you look at Kalonzo Musyoka saying that he's not even an MP. And that anybody who will assure him of being in government is more than willing. Remember, he's been told, and I've seen this, that a river cannot join a stream. I've seen that debacle. He's also been told that he only has 755,000 votes. You know, yet I remember in the last general election, the last rally at Uhuru Park. Kalonzo was lamenting that he's been told that he should take his 1 million elsewhere, but that is not enough to make him the Jubilee candidate. So obviously, desperate times call for desperate measures. I think we may be facing an election that is too close to call, based on the predictions that have been made, I think objectively. And so that means that some people are actually angling for the highest bidder around the possibility of...
Is that what you're saying between of Kanu and Chama cha Mashinani?
Exactly. And I mean, we've just been having a representative of Chama cha Mashinani here, the deputy governor, is it for Mandela? For Isiolo. So we will wait to see whether they will just want to show their to exercise their muscle around the downstream candidates like the governor and the members of parliament, or whether that would also have an effect on the presidential outcome. What is for sure is that if we do not, for example, produce a presidential candidate that is credible, that would give a run for money for the deputy president, then I don't know what presidential votes Ruto would bring, Isaac Ruto would bring to whoever that he may want to hawk his support for.
I can tell you, Fred, if you look at the results, and you know there are things that are obvious. Our elections and campaigning is usually done on ethnic lines. So, and you know you don't need to. That is a fact. That's how Kenyans are voting. Now, apart from 2002, so in the event Kalonzo Musyoka runs and is in the ballot, together with the money, that is Musalia Mudavadi, then the chances actually of a high voter turnout and the possibility of a runoff is very high. So Jubilee, I think this is since I am a consultant, this is free consultancy to Jubilee and to ODM. If ODM wants to win the election on the second round, then actually they are happy with the developments that are happening by encouraging Kalonzo to run and encouraging Mudavadi to run. The second, the runoff is going to be highly likely. If ODM wants to win, or Jubilee wants to win the elections on the first round, then they have to give answers to the... of course, I agree with Maura that they are raising their stake. So they have to offer them, because they are political players. And then that will therefore fix the elections in round one either way.
Yes.
Anyone who comes up with a framework that takes care of such interests is actually in a better place to ensure that they win elections on round one.
Is that what is happening? Because we've been hearing this talk about ODM going it alone, Wiper going it alone, the possibility of Wiper going it alone. And Ford Kenya is yet to do that because, I don't know, probably they still believe they should be within code. But is what Vincent Kimosop saying holding water?
Fred, let me be clear on two things. You know, Maura is trying to do a lot of politics for his new Jubilee party. The respect that we have for our principles in CORD is something that is not debatable. There is no time as Kaluma you can hear me saying any negative thing about Kalonzo Musyoka. And to the contrary, I will tell you, this is one of the best leaders, you know, the people of Kenya have. You will not hear a Wiper person talking ill of, you know, Raila Odinga. And you know, those are the main parties in the CORD coalition. There is also, you know, Ford Kenya. You've never, contrary to what Maura say, gotten into a situation where most at the level of leadership, you know, we exchange. People do not understand what we agreed to do. We said that a strong ODM is good for CORD. A strong Wiper is good for CORD. A strong Ford Kenya is good for CORD. Let these parties as independent parties go out and re-energize their bases, and later we would come and meet. But you know, Kimosop has spoken, you know, in a manner that is, you know, letting the cat out. The fact of the matter is that listening to Kimosop, I've never been more convinced that Jubilee is going home. It is going home. You know, Brother Kimosop, there is a way in which these top political leaders of the nation have a history. Yes, you know, the relationship between Raila and Mudavadi, for instance, and what would happen if we were to go for a runoff, both in terms of lineage and relationship. You know what I mean? You know the relationship between Raila and Kalonzo. And also you know the relationship between Mudavadi now with Ruto as an individual and with Uhuru. Remember, Ruto disagreed with Raila when Raila made, you know, Mudavadi the deputy prime minister, not himself. By the way, the die was cast. Those issues of Mao and others were just excuses being sought. So these are people who have treated one another with respect. When you look at Mudavadi from the diminishing, you know, political stature in 2002, this has been the shortest serving vice president because he made a sacrifice for Uhuru. What does Uhuru do to him? When the incumbent president, Mwai Kibaki, says he should be the president, you know what happened, how UDF was formed, and those are the issues. So you have a situation in which, in terms of relationship, whatsoever we move, the best case scenario, and this is what we should be discussing, does CORD want to win first round, or they want to go to the runoff? I'm one person who is saying we should not give Jubilee a single extra day beyond, you know, their term. And then the best, you know, punishment to give, you know, these two leadership of Jubilee, because they're excluding other Kenyans, is to unite. In fact, I was saying, let us form a CORD party. I've said here that maybe if we cannot form a party, let us have joint nominations, so that you can give free chance to Raila, Mudavadi, Kalonzo, Wetangula. That's the best. And even others, including Isaac, Ruto and Moi. So that we instill good governance. Now, that I can tell you, whoever the candidate Kimosop will give us the president very early in the morning. The other case scenario is where you have these people, you know, running. There is an advantage to that, not necessarily a disadvantage. The disadvantage is that the thing will then go to run off. But I can tell you, what it is going to do is that those people from Lower Eastern who would not vote for instance, if Raila were the CORD candidate, or would just sit home because there is no high, you know, sentimental around the candidature, would now come up to vote. The voter registration would go up in the meantime. And I can tell you, if Kalonzo ran, for instance, you can beat Governor Mutua by all those MPs who are calling themselves defectors and rebels will never see any, you know, place of leadership again. He will mop up Lower Eastern and the Wiper strongholds. If Mudavadi runs, Wherever he controls, it will be more.
Kaluma, you seem to be supporting the fact that Kalonzo should actually...
No, I'm not supporting. I'm doing an analysis. and either way, I can tell you, you have a situation in which this thing is going to run off. Now, at run off, you know what will happen. Because these are people who have worked, these are people who have spoken to Kenyans about where they want Kenya to be. And you know, they are in this called coalition because they share, you know, so much about, you know, our future as a country. So Jubilee should not be sitting comfortable. The fact of the matter is that we have cards to play on the side of God. Because we are not incumbents. You know, Jubilee is stuck. Uhuru is incumbent, he has to defend with Ruto as the running mate. So they have no card to play. If you're joining Jubilee, you know you are joining as a member, full stop. Do you want somebody like Musalia Mudavadi